Commissioners traded barbs today in a discussion about employees allegedly falsifying timesheets, an issue raised by Commissioner Terry Phillips that got plenty of pushback from justices of the peace and fellow county commissioners. In an agenda item requested by Phillips himself, the Precinct 3 commissioner claimed justice of the peace office workers, specifically in Precinct 4, were reporting 40-hour weeks while working half-days on Fridays.
If Smith County employees aren't working 40 hours a week, this fact should accurately be reflected on their electronic timesheet to prevent employees from falsifying government records.
Phillips' remarks and handling of the situation came under scrutiny from fellow commissioners and JP judges, including the judge that has handled and is handling cases involving the Phillips family.
With that said, I know that recently a case did not go your way, so I kind of question the timing of all this.
I'm going to tell you right now, I don't appreciate being up here right now, because I think this could have been handled differently. I really do. Not bring it out into
so the public knows. I don't appreciate having to do this. This is a difficult conversation.
I'm not going to argue with you.
Precinct 2 JP Andy Dunklin took on claims that workers leave other days of the week at 5 p.m., saying they're often still serving customers and working beyond regular business hours.
That's an incorrect statement, Commissioner Phillips, to insinuate that they only stay till 5 without any
research. That's what their timesheets are reporting, so that's all.
Whatever that says, I can tell you what the facts are, and had you contacted any of us, we would be able to tell you that.
Commissioner John Moore later questioned the county attorney about the court's role in this conversation.
This body has no administrative say over how another elected official runs their office. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Commissioner Phillips responded saying the court makes the handbook and sets salaries based on 40-hour weeks.
I have a couple of questions.
At one point, Phillips' wife, County Clerk Karen Phillips, was questioned about closing early before holidays, something her office and others have done in the past.
Well, a minute ago you were citing the importance of the handbook, so you're okay with
I know you're trying to make this about Commissioner Terry Phillips, but
I'm asking you,
y'all do it all you want to.
You're either for the handbook or you're not. You can't pick and choose what you want to do.
Let's do the handbook, you know? Yeah.
Well, the handbook does say that the elected official can run their office the way that they choose, and they can send people home if they choose to, or they can allow people to take off a certain day for something other than,
So why are we even having this discussion?
Now, in the end, there was no official action, although the county judge did say the county's HR director would be looking into the claims made.